Try to do it solo, do it the go, do it lost. Yeah, I do it with it. When I lose it, doors poor Richard. Yeah, they don't know the situation. Only pages in the bigger picture. Pause from the picture or pause of the liquor, yeah. Feels like a Salvador and a killer, yeah. It helps shut the doors and it seals them up. Hope us some more.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Friday, June 26, 2020. This is episode number 11 of the Moeford and Son podcast. It's really more like episode like 13 or 14, but the last couple of podcasts that I recorded just didn't feel it. Like, I feel like I was complaining more than communicating, and when I started this, that wasn't the whole purpose of this. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, and if you hear this later, it's going to sound a little different because I got my boy with me. I got my boy Nathan. Say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, so it's summer. You know, he doesn't have much to do. I kind of had this idea of having a co-host with me, or somebody I can actually do this with. Every podcast that I listen to, whether it be the No Frills podcast or the Tony Kornheiser Show podcast, there's always somebody there. And, you know, with quarantine and everything going now, people wear masks, stay home. If you don't need to go out, don't gather. I understand. It's been 4 months. We're tired of this shit too. But at the end of the day, you got to stay healthy. You not wanting to wear a mask, you not wanting to protect others from sickness, you not wanting to do your part so we can get over this shit is making this last longer than it should have. This was supposed to last 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. It's 4 months. Just come on, man. Stop being selfish. I don't like wearing a mask either. My nose runs. My boy got asthma. He got to wear a face cover. Like, it's inconvenient for everybody. We got, he wears glasses, so it steams up his glasses. It's just, anyways, let's get this episode started. So the song that we walked into, or we played into, was my cousin's song. Actually, it's "Lost in My Cup" by my cousin Howard Rodello. You guys can find him on Instagram at HowWords. I'm not sure what other socials he's at, but if you go to Instagram, look up at how.words. I believe you can even find him on YouTube. You can find him in everything. But that song, "Lost on My Cup," is his first official release. He released it about a month ago. Super proud of him. He's been in the music game. We're trying to do music for, seems like forever. 15 years, 16 years, 20 years. It's been a long time. He's putting in his time. He finally had enough confidence to release a track. I've been telling him for years to release one. I'm happy for the song. We'll play the song in its entirety at the very, very end. And if you happen to be new to the podcast, if you're an independent artist that, you got something banging, whether it's rap, whether it's rock, whether it's pop, whatever it is, if you want to get out there, send your music over in an MP3 format with an email stating that we have the rights to at least play it on this podcast. We're not going to try to sell it. We're not going to try to do anything else. We'll play that at the end, and we'll give you guys all your pub. Submit it out there. I got this idea from the Tony Kornheiser Show as well. They get music submissions, and I figured, hey, you know what? Like, his like crowd is different than my crowd. Maybe I can get some younger music, some music that's more in tune with today's. As you see, I got my son with me. He's into different music. And it's just about really just, helping other people promote, getting it out there and doing all the things. At the same time, we promote you, you promote us. It's a you scratch my back, I scratch your back type deal. We go off of each other. Even if you don't want to promote me, it's cool. I'm here to help out. We can do it as it is. All right, cool. So that worked out. How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is making me going crazy though. I haven't been on the golf course in what is it? What day? It's June.
It's been like 4 months.
Yep.
February.
It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, driving. Golf pun. All right, so I guess let's just get started with like some introduction. So everybody knows me. I've been doing YouTube. I started doing a podcast with everybody. People who normally listen, but listen to my voice. I had a YouTube channel, got some followers. You see my face doing rants on 49ers and NFL and games and beers and everything else. Changing it up a little bit. I don't know if you would want to do this with me every once in a while, but it'd be kind of cool to have a co-host and just have somebody that we can do. So like I told you at the start of this, there wasn't really like a set plan in my mind. but really like, me and you have an open relationship. We can talk whatever it is, and I kind of feel like that's kind of what's missing in this world right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no communication, and I never want to be that way with you as my son. And like if we can share that together, is like it's easy to communicate with each other. But if you have anything, I don't care. This is going to be public, but don't think just because this is public that you don't have the same rights that I give you at the house with this. If you have any question and you feel like people your age maybe need an answer from somebody my age, parent age to kids age, feel free to ask it. And like anything else, I'll try to give you the best possible answer in a way that hopefully you can understand. If not, of course, we'll go off air and discuss this, father to son. But if you want like the simple, low down, simple questions, for the podcast, and just if you feel like it can help somebody your age out, by all means, dude, ask it. There's no restrictions here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So lately, me and you, well, you started it, but me and you started getting back into watching Starcraft.
Yep.
I think we were really heavy into it. Well, Wings of Liberty and
Heart of the Storm.
Heart of the Swarm. What's the new one?
Legacy of the Void.
Legacy. Legacy came out in
2016.
We kind of just
Yeah.
did other things. I stopped playing. I think I was playing more Heroes and mainly just Heroes. And then I just kept playing Heroes, played Dragon Ball Fighters. You got into Fortnite and golf and band and everything else that consumed your life. So what made you get back into like watching Starcraft again?
I don't know. I just started playing it, and eventually I got up to like Gold League, and I'm like, how do the pros do this? Like, I just could never balance out army, production, workers with the limited resources that I had. And I thought maybe I should watch it. So I went on the YouTube channel SC2HL, which shows like highlights, and I'm like, wow, that was cool. Like one, which actually happened season 1. Scarlet versus Rogue, round of 24.
Hold on really quick, because I know Scarlet is in one of the polls for season 2 that we're watching currently for GSL. Is it the same Scarlet that was Acer Scarlet?
Yeah, Sasha.
Okay, cool. I was
her last name
curious
starts with
because I
H.
remember there being another Scarlet that was a Korean player, and I always got that person confused with Scarlet, because that's the Scarlet I know. Scarlet, the Acer Scarlet. Because I remember she was, I think she might have debuted in IGN Pro League like 2012, I want to say, like right as Wings of Liberty kind of thing released and kind of started the whole Starcraft thing again. I remember seeing her on that. All right, cool. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So Rogue versus Scarlet, and then Scarlet just cheesed the H out of Rogue. Rogue. Game 1, she went for a cheesy build with her team no limit. 14 pools, 13 gas, 12 hatch. So that, I don't know what the actual like statistics were, but I think she was trying to mislead Rogue into thinking she was going hatch first.
Mm-hmm.
And she got the gas so she could get link speed and then just go for it. And she won that game in like 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And then game 2, she went gas first, hatch, the same thing, but she put in she rushed with drones. She had like 4 Zerglings and like 7 drones. And I think at that time, Rogue had a queen, but nothing else. Like no roaches, no Evo, nothing else. Because it was like still like 3 minutes in. So Scarlet rushed with drones and planted spine crawlers into Rogue's base. And then rushed with the rest of his drones. So it was just this big game. Like Rogue tried to defend, but eventually the spine crawlers and the lings and the drones got the better of him. So that whole set took like 13 minutes. Lines. That was
we'll
crazy.
Probably come full circle with the last games we need to talk about. All right, cool. So like you want to kind of like know like the timings and kind of see how everything goes. And all right, cool. Yeah, because like when you got into it again, I was like, you're watching StarCraft, and then that kind of led into us talking about StarCraft again, and then he got into GSL. You were watching the tail end of season one for GSL 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, he watched a couple matches, and then you asked me to watch the finals with you, which ended up being TY versus Cure, which was a TVT.
Yeah.
And that was pretty short. What did it last? Like maybe an hour and a half,
Something.
if even that.
It was,
and that was with breaks.
that was.
So TY ended up just whooping Cure 4-0. I mean, I got really nothing to say about that. It wasn't like, for me personally, from what I saw, like TY played really, really well, and Cure didn't play bad. It's just, I feel like,
He made too many mistakes.
and even at that, I don't even think he made that many mistakes. It's just that TY didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just TY played so solidly, because I felt like Cure had some moments where he defended really well and he did some really good stuff, and then like you said, like I guess one mistake was too many. There'd be games where he just makes one mistake and he loses like a tank, or he loses 2 tanks,
Or he loses his medevacs.
yeah, or something small, and it was like, well, that was pretty much it. That was GG. Like once that mistake was done, it was GG. So we watched we watched the end of that, which didn't take long, and then we started watching all the groups. So we officially started watching all the groups, which started last Friday. Yeah, right. Last Friday.
Yeah, like Friday night, Saturday morning.
Because we watched the game. We watched the second. Oh, actually, you watched all of last Friday's.
Yeah.
So you gave me the recap of how it was. So it started off with Zest versus Sun, right?
Yeah.
And that was a Protoss versus Protoss.
Yeah.
Zest won that 2-1.
Yeah.
Second match after that was Su versus Special, and that was a Zerg versus Terran. And before we go for any further, I know maybe a lot of you don't know StarCraft like me and Nathan do, but there's 3 races in StarCraft: the Protoss, the Zerg, and the Terran. Usually you'll probably hear us say ZVZ, ZVP, PvP, TVT, TVZ, whatever the case may be, but the first letter of each one of the races, so Zerg Z, Protoss P, Terran T, is probably how we're going to shortchange it, just so we don't always say Protoss, so we don't say Terran. We might say the races, but at the end, it's just easier to say, oh, this was a ZVZ or a TVT or a PvP. I mean, you get lost, I'm sorry. But if there's anything else that you guys may want to discuss with us regarding games and everything else, send emails to moebanterpodcast@gmail.com. That's MOEPODCAST. Oh shit, I missed banter. MOEBANTERPODCAST@gmail.com, and we'll help you out. And at this point, I have my boy with me, so if anybody who's a little bit younger maybe wants a little bit younger perspective on something like Fortnite, maybe even something getting into StarCraft and Heroes, because he recently started getting into Heroes as well. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so that's kind of the general recap of how we're gonna kind of recap StarCraft. So we had Su versus Special, and that was a ZVT, and Special won that 2-0.
Yeah.
The one thing about Special is Mexican.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of season 1. Were there any other Latin American or foreigners that participated?
I think Special was in it. I don't know the full roster of season 1.
And then Special's in it again this season, right? Because he finished top 4.
No. It was.
Oh no, sorry. He's part of the pool. I'm
pools.
sorry. He's part of the pools. I'm sorry. My bad.
TY, Cure, Innovation, and Parting.
They're part of the 16, which is what everybody's trying to qualify for.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
They were top 4 in season 1, so they're automatically.
Okay.
In.
Cool. Yeah, I got my seasons mixed up. Okay, so Special's in there. He's Mexican, which is kind of cool. Because I don't know if we ever seen any Latinos play in GSL, like in all the times that we played, because I know normally when everything started, the only time you would see like Latin American players would be like United States, IGN Pro League, when that was a thing,
NASL,
when the North American Star League or StarCraft League was a thing, and then the other ones that would take place in Anaheim, the those tournaments that
Nation Wars.
No, they're like the ones that have everything in them, but they would host them like every, what are they called?
The WCS.
No, well, I mean, no. We'll probably figure it out. It's a MLG.
Oh,
When they were like part of
there
the
it is.
MLG tour,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when StarCraft was a part of MLG, you would see like a lot of foreigners. And the one thing that we should also mention is StarCraft 2 is developed by Blizzard, which is out here in Irvine. It is an American game developed by an American company with, you know, a multi-nation of developers on this game, but it is an American product. But the players who tend to dominate tend to be Korean. So anybody who's not Korean that plays StarCraft is considered a foreigner. So if you guys hear us say foreigner, don't think of anything of like, oh, they're talking about immigrants. And no. That is a term that they use for anybody who's non-Korean who plays StarCraft at a very high level. It's like they're the foreigners, you know, like we are the foreigners. Even though this is technically an American game, the American players are foreigners in this game. But it was cool for me to see that, like to see Special kind of be like, okay, he's from Mexico and he's like keeping up with the Koreans, because it wasn't a thing that we saw at any given time. Like during the time me and you watched it heavy, like we might see one European player.
That was,
you know,
mainly Naniwa.
Naniwa was there. Yeah, he was a really big one. We might have seen Idra early on, like during Wings of Liberty. You know, like these are the ones. Even Scarlet. Scarlet is a foreigner.
Wait, where is Scarlet from?
I think she's European too, but I'm not sure. But I know she's not Korean.
She's not Korean.
But yeah, like, you know, just even trying to think about foreigners who have reached that level of success in this game is very hard. And to kind of see a Latino there, you know, like in Korea, like keeping up, it was kind of crazy. So, all right, cool. So then Special won that match 2-0. That led to the winner's match being Zest versus Special, which was a PVT. And then Zest won that 2-1.
Yeah.
So that means that Zest qualifies
for the round
of 16
yes.
automatically. And then so that means that Special went down to the losers. So that match actually is one of the first ones that I think I saw the last two games Special. Yeah. So I actually wound up. That's the one I came back with food with. Yes. Was that one. Okay, so the one note that I have with that was what surprised me about that was that I felt Special as a whole for that whole set, really. Like, game 2 and game 3. I felt for game 2 and game 3, he played extremely well. He had pressure going on. He had like what it took to actually beat Zest, and then he just stopped.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like he dropped those games. I felt like he actually could have won. Like, I didn't think Zest that day was a way better player than he was. I felt like really Special kind of didn't have confidence in himself. Like, there was just something. He started off really strong and then just dropped them. In my opinion, he dropped those games. But whatever. It doesn't change the fact, you know, like if your opponent's going to let you win, you take it. Yeah, you take the chance and you win. So then Zest qualified there for the round of 16 on the winner's side, which led to Sue versus Zun, which were the first two people to lose in their matches, and that was losers elim match number 1 or loser semifinals, and that was a ZVP. So then that was a 2-1. Only note I got for that was that Sue was strong, and kind of like the same thing. Like, Sue was strong when it came to playing the game traditionally, but Zun had, I think, better harass. But the same thing. He would harass, he would do the damage, and there was no follow-up.
That's the thing. That's the thing with Zerg, is that early game harassment, they're at a major disadvantage. All they have is Zerglings.
And Queens.
And Queens, well, Queens aren't really for harassment. They move like, they're super slow off creep. Because with Terrans, you have fast Reapers.
But I don't really think Sue had any major harass, though. He just kind of
played.
He played better once Zun's harass was like defended against. Zun had like no follow-up. Like, he would get like good kills. He would come in and kill some good drones and pick off and do damage and delay. And he would be ahead for like a cool like 2, 3, 4 minutes. But in those 2, 3, 4 minutes, he wouldn't do anything. And then he wound up losing that, as you know, he wound up losing that. So that he wound up losing 2-1, and that's it, which eliminates him. So best of luck. Come back for season 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was that. So Sue beat Zun 2-1 in that ZVP. Zerg moves on to the losers finals, which was now Sue versus Special, right?
Yeah.
And that was a ZVT run back, which is Zerg versus. So that was the first match. They both played each other, so now they're coming back. What did I have here?
Really?
That was a that was a short match too. That was one of the
shorter ones, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the shorter ones. Hold on, really quick.
That was.
Yeah, sorry about that. He was sniffling, and after a while, I'm pretty sure people are gonna be like, "Damn, man, this boy is sniffling." So we'll continue talking Starcraft after this. Yeah, I don't know how much I really want to do with do this, but I figure his father's some things that we can do. I always talk about this. If you guys, I didn't get that many listens on my podcast, I don't think, but either way, or on my YouTube, I got a couple of views. But just in general, it's something that we can do together. Why do I got to be in here doing my own thing, and why does he have to be wherever he's at doing his own thing? If we're here together, let's just come and do our thing, and let's talk about something. Since we actually started sharing StarCraft together, I figure, why not? We can have this discussion. We can kind of go from there and everything else. You good?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. So yeah. Then that was loser finals on that run back. Special B. Well, let me see where we go here. Jeez, I lost my footing here. Yeah. Special beat Sue on the run back. He beat 2-1.
2-0, I think.
2-0? That's the one thing I didn't get.
Yeah, Sue was...
Oh, he did beat him 2-0. You're right.
Yeah.
So what I got for game one was that Sue had strong defense. And this was the thing that led me to believe that this is why Special actually dropped those matches. Was that for game one, he did the 2 racks.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. Sue had strong defense, just like Zest had. But there was a follow-up. I think he wound up going to Banshees or something right after that, and that was the thing that broke the back. And then once he got picks off with that Banshee, he just kept 2 racks in, and it was GG on that case.
Yeah.
So he had that. Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. I got another one, the big fight. So that was another thing. He almost dropped these games too, because now looking at my notes, he almost dropped these games because he did start with the 2 racks, which was defended. And then this is the one where they actually had the big fight with the Thors and the battle cruisers versus the Mutas and the Lings.
Yeah.
That was the thing, was that he was able to 2 racks, cause economic damage, and then went into Thor's BCs, because that's what he was building in the back of that.
Yeah.
And then all Sue had was Mutas and Lings. And then when they had that fight, everything just kind of melted and nothing died. So that was the thing. He didn't have that against Zest. He kind of would start off really strong and then get steamrolled.
Yeah.
So that's how Special won game 1, was that big fight with the Mutas and Lings. And then game 2, I just have Special dominates. Sue had nothing. So I don't even know what the details. Yeah, I don't know what the details on that was, but I'm pretty sure it was short.
It was short.
So then we have Zest advancing on the winner's side, and Special advancing off of that pool to the best of, or round of 16 on the loser's side.
Yeah.
And then on Wednesday, what's their Wednesday? Or was it our Wednesday?
It was
our Wednesday morning, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. Yeah, because GSL takes place in Korea. So in order for us to watch the midweek games, we had to stay up until 6 o'clock until we saw everything, because it started at 2:30.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've been kind of messed up anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So with Group B, the match 1 was Estrella versus Dark, which is a PVZ. Dark ended up winning that 2-0.
Yeah.
I actually have some pretty good notes here. And Estrella is another foreigner, correct? I think he's from Spain.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's a Spanish name, but I don't know if he's from Spain.
No, they don't. He might be from Spain, but everybody says it Estrella.
Estrella.
They don't roll the R.
They don't roll the R. Okay, so Estrella. Yeah, but you know what? You got taste toasters up there, and I don't think they know how to roll the R. I'm not trying to diss them. I'm just saying. I don't think that they can know how to roll they are.
It's fine.
But okay, Estrella versus Dark. That was 2-0. So for game 1, I have nice adapt harass from Estrella, but not a strong attack against Dark. So I think I remember that match going in a way where he did have it, but he would get like maybe 1-2 drones at a time.
Yeah.
And normally when you see adapt harass from a Protoss, usually they'll get like 4 at one time or 3 at one time, and then kind of back out. And I think that causes more damage. But like 1 here, 2 there, like a Zerg in all reality can kind of recover from that no problem.
Because the way Zerg like mutate units, you could get workers like that.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to actually, the reason why 3 or 4 actually work, especially early on, is because first you have limited queens. So then the queen has to decide if she wants to spread her creep to make her defense stronger, so she can actually follow the adepts a little bit better, or infuse or spit on the hive to produce more larvae, because normally they only produce 3. So if you kill 3, that's a whole round of drones. If you kill 1, that's 1 drone you have to replace, and you got 2 larvae to do whatever else you want, which is Zerglings or whatever the case may be, which lets you build a defense. When you get 3 or 4, you don't have that. You need to replace those workers, and then you're kind of stuck there, and then you kind of force the queen to stop spreading creep, which again affects the defense and everything else. It's the little things in this game, which is why I like it, which is why I kind of never hated it. I just stopped playing it, and we stopped watching it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had nice adept harass, but not a strong attack against Dark, and I'm not sure what Dark did to actually win that game. But I think he ended up winning game 1 because it's 2-0, so he wins game 1. I'm not sure how he followed up. It might have just been like roaches and ravagers, and then just smoked somebody.
Yeah, I think it was roach ravager because he targeted. Because I think when Estrella tried to advance, he just he targeted the sentries with the corrosive bile on the ravagers, and then just finished everything else off.
That's probably how it went.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He ended up winning. And if you guys want to watch these matches, they're actually on YouTube on the Africa TV page. You can subscribe to their page, and they actually have all of the matches that we're speaking about. You guys can go and see them for yourselves. Even if you know the results, just seeing these players play and do stuff, if you're interested in the game, it's a great way to kind of just get into it and kind of, get the nuance of that. So then for game 2, I have Estrella had strong harass going into 3 base, then stopped, Dark quickly expanding to 5 as Estrella went for 4th. So I think I remember that kind of starting off the same way, but that was the thing. I think I do remember that game. I think he was able to prevent, or he held Dark to 2 bases for a while.
Yeah.
And that was him expanding behind the adapt harass. So it was 2 base Protoss, 2 base Zerg for like the first 5 minutes of that game, something like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, in this game, for somebody who plays Zerg, a Zerg always has to be 1 base ahead of a Terran or 1 base ahead of the Protoss. And the reason for that being is it's not only economic, but also the only way for a Zerg to produce attack units is through the hatcheries.
Yes.
And that's what produces the larvae, which turns into the units that you need. Where Protoss and Terran can build buildings that produce the units. Therefore, you don't really have to worry that much about army production being hindered because of your lack of command centers or nexus.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing for that one. I remember they're going 2-2, and then he stopped to expand to a 3rd, but didn't keep the harassment. And then Dark triple expanded off of that and went to 5 bases, and Estrella went, okay, I'm gonna go 4, but Dark went into 5 bases while Estrella was still on 3. So that led him almost a base and a half up for what was it, a cool 3-4 minutes? And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but in Starcraft,
not a position you want to be as Protoss when you're playing against Zerg at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then just I think as a whole, it, in 3-4 minutes when we talk about it, they're long games, but the segments of action are short, and just being behind 2 or 3 minutes is like a lifetime in this game. And then we had the first big engagement. Saw Psy Storms from Estrella, but not enough to kind of break Dark. There was some attacks back and forth. He did have some really good, like we said, Psy Storms in the first big engagement. The next big engagement, let me see what he had here. I have second big engagement. Estrella forced Dark into Corruptor Tech. But I remember this game. So he actually had some good harass and he had some good units here because I think he had built a bunch of Phoenixes.
Yeah.
Which forced Estrella into building a bunch of Corruptors to deal with it. And I remember there being hype because then all of a sudden Estrella went like mass Void Rays behind this. He was building like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
But he rallied them incorrectly, remember? He rallied into like the middle of the map.
Yes.
And like the first like 3 Void Rays that came out.
Right into the Corruptor
Right
fire.
into the Corruptors. And that was pretty much it, I think. It says sick and big engagement. Estrella forced Dark into Corruptor Tech, but rallied his Void Rays incorrectly, leading to 4 of them dying before they can be used. And then that was pretty much GG at that point. I think it lasted like another like 10 minutes after that. But Estrella never kind of recovered.
I think it ended right after that because at that point, all of his army was done and he was relying on his Void Rays. But he rallied them wrong. And 3 Void Rays against, I think it was like 9 or 10 Corruptors is not what you want.
Okay, I have that. It lasted like another 6 minutes.
Yeah, I think it might.
I think he had an army behind it. I think he had a death ball behind it. I think he had stalkers and what are those tall
Colossi?
Yeah, I think he had Colossi and stalkers. Yeah, I think he had a couple like sentries for force fields. But the thing is, there was nothing for the Corruptors.
No.
So the Corruptors just killed his Colossi early. Ravagers killed the shields, and then I think he just got swarmed, and that was pretty much it. And I think that was a game where like Dark had got really lucky with some of the Ravager strikes too, where he would just toss them because I think he killed like 2 sentries that match, and just Hail Mary like just tosses, and it was crazy. So Dark ended up winning that as a Zerg against Estrella Protoss 2-0. And then match 2 was Impact versus Stats, which was a ZVP as well. Impact playing Zerg, Stats playing Protoss. I think Impact got smoked both games, so I don't really have that many notes. So I have game 1, Impact attempted to harass with Bailing drops. And what?
I don't.
Bailing drops backed with Mutas, but nothing really kind of happened.
Yeah.
I think that was his big thing. He wanted to do Bailing drops because I think he sped up drop tech for his overlords really, really quick. But he never really got any good hits off of that.
No.
And then he had Mutas behind that and didn't get nothing off of it. And that was GG. And then game 2 was Impact starts with offensive hatch. Block hatchet, blah 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 blah.
This game.
Yeah, so that was the one where he put the hatchery on the natural, right?
Yeah.
And didn't do anything with that.
He got an early Roach Warren, which was nice, so he could pump roaches out of that hatch. But he didn't go for anything. He went for army. I think he went for probes. But when you're harassing like that, you want to go for tech, building, pylons if possible. You don't want to go for just small clusters of units.
I don't even think he even got that far. Like I think I got the notes here and it says pretty much Stats had adapt harass and Impact couldn't get start past that bad hatch because he didn't do anything with the hatch. So I think then the adapt harass is kind of that's all he really needed, and that was GG after that. That sent Impact into the losers. And then match 3, which was the winner's match, it was Dark versus Stats, and that was ZVP.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Dark winning that 2-1 for game 1. I have the big engagement. The first big engagement was almost 12 minutes in, which was like 11:45. Saw a nice Starker sandwich from Stats, killing all the Brewlords. Damn, they had Brewlords that early on. Damn, okay.
Yeah.
Killing all the
he didn't like even wait to go into Great Aspire.
He kind of just went, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so then we have kill all the Brewlords and Roaches, but I remember this one, I think. So, I think for this one, Stats Yeah, Stats had like a really strong army, but his economy was suffering a little bit in
Yeah.
this match. So like he killed most of the high priced units that Dark had, but what he lost he couldn't replace efficiently. So that left him with a small army after that. Even though he won that battle, he didn't have enough to win the war.
Yeah.
And Dark won that. And then we have game 2. So that was 1-0 at that point for Dark. Game 2, Dark starts with quick spawning pool, followed by hatchery cheese at stats natural. Dark killed gateways blocking. I think I remember this one too. Dark killed gateway blocking natural, leading Zergling rush into being able to expand behind the consistent attack stream. I remember this. That was a crazy nice like cheese that could have been. And this was another one that one of the things where like I feel like Dark had the advantage here.
Yes.
And in this particular game, but stopped. Stats didn't have anything.
No, he didn't.
He had like he
had
stayed with
2
like
adepts, 1 stalker,
right, like he
against
didn't,
like 8 zerglings.
and he could have just kept harassing. And that was the thing, is like he had that hatchery there. It was low after a while, but he had the hatchery there. He never produced any zerglings from it. He never put any spines there. He never did anything with the hatch besides just kind of like have a cheesy way to get into Stats base, and he didn't do anything with it. And he ended up losing that game. I have my notes right here. It says Dark actually stops the attack too early, in my opinion. With the setups, he allowed Stats to build an army of adepts, and then he came with just the adepts after like that attack. That's all he could afford. He just went into adepts, and then he got smoked, and that was GG. So then it goes into game 3 because now it's tied 1-1. And for this, I got Dark techs into burrow and movement prior to the first big battle 9 minutes in. As it completes, he sets up 2-prong burrowed roaches into the natural. While I remember this one. This one was a really good one too. Where he kind of went into the quick burrow and roach speed to go under, and he timed it because I think at this point in this match for game 3, Stats was expanding to the 3rd. He was just expanding his 3rd, and Dark had a really nice army, and he goes and attacks the army in the 3rd base, and there's that big battle, but he sent like that little group of like 4 roaches into the main, I believe, burrowed.
Yeah.
And then he just attacked as he's attacking. So as they're focusing on this one, the roaches are just going ham on the probes. I think he wound up killing like something like 16 probes.
Some crazy number.
Some crazy number. And I think from that point on, I think I have here actually. So completes his setup, 2-prong attack, burrowed roaches into the natural while the main army attacked the upcoming 3rd expansion from Stats. Dark kills 20 plus workers. Stats hold off the first wave, but suffer too much economic damage to hold off the consistent harass. Stats defend well, but Dark was too strong. GG. Dark goes into winners, and he advances to the round of 16 as well. So after that, we go into loser semis, which was Impact versus Estrella, which was a ZVP. Game 1, Estrella opens Nexus first at his 3rd. I remember this match too. That was a crazy one, where he hid his expansion. Remember?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have it at his natural. He had it at his 3rd location. Impact scouts the natural and sees nothing. Thinks proxy Stargate before scouting the 3rd, but Estrella was able to block off the natural and 3rd, meaning he was on 3 bases first and remained that way for about 2 minutes before Impact started a 4th. So they were tied up in bases again. As a Zerg, you have to be up. Estrella starts adept harassing with economic lead. This is about 7 minutes in. Impact starts Nidus versus Stormhost, completes at 8:15, and then from that point, Impact starts Locust,
Flight.
And harass and kills Estrella's 4th. Estrella pushes 10 minutes in, mini death ball. Impact has roaches and Locust for defense. Goes into Hydras, but Estrella's multi-prong attack with Zealot drops, and that was when he started dropping multi-prong. Zealot drops too much econ damage. Death ball gets better. Exchanges. Estrella keeps pressure going. GG. Estrella wins game 1. For game 2, we have a more traditional start. Impact hits a Queen Roach Ravager timing at 6 minutes in. Estrella has a good defense against the push, but Impact did enough damage to natural defenses and base to allow him cause more economic damage. GG shortly after. So that was a short match as well. I think I remember that timing because he had a bunch of good fuses.
Yeah.
And everything else. And then again, the Ravagers. just from downtown, and you would just get good hits. So that then it was tied 1-1. They go into a game 3 as well. And then for game 3, I have Impact starts first. Oh, this was in one of the map specific ones, which was the Golden Wall LE, because it has that gold expansion.
Yeah.
So in this game, you have minerals and you have gas. You need that. You need to harvest those resources in order to build army. Invest in your tech and research stuff. And some of the maps, the developers have decided to put a gold mineral base. So I believe in gold you get 7 minerals per turn.
Yeah.
So in these cases, normally when you have harvesting units and they harvest, you get 5 gas, 5 minerals for whatever they're harvesting every trip that they do. And these gold expansions, you actually get 7. It's only 2 minerals more. You think, oh, it's not that much, but the thing is, you're talking about time that's being saved. Because if you're going, full on, I'm loaded up with harvesters here. You got 3 to each one of your nodes. That's 6 additional. Minerals for a full rotation. So you have an extra worker working for you plus 1 more, and it just kind of snowballs from there. But okay, so we have Impact starts hatch first at the gold expansion. Estrella has good adept harass early, but not enough damage done to prevent Impact building up a huge Roach Ravager army. Impact able to defend okay against Estrella's continuous harass. Then Impact hits a good timing with his army plus queens. Impact's too strong. GG. And I think it was kind of the same thing. He had roaches, ravagers, and he kind of did the same things. Kind of went across the map with his queens for infusions, for transfusions, and that was pretty much it. The one thing is, even though Estrella lost, he's another one where I feel like he's not a bad player.
He just made too many mistakes.
I don't think he's aggressive enough. There's no confidence there. Because I honestly think he should have won game 3. Because the way that he was harassing, moving from base to base, because he did cause a lot of drone damage.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lack of confidence somewhere that I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is in these games sometimes. Because it's easy for us and we look out, go, oh, he doesn't have confidence, he doesn't have this, or he messed up here. When you're in the actual match, it's different. You can pretend to know everything that you want, but once you actually want to execute, things change all the time. But it's kind of good to see him again, like another foreigner in GSL playing against Koreas, even if it is just at the very, very base. Just seeing people there is kind of crazy. So yeah, and then that was pretty much it. Estrella winds up losing. He was done, and then after that, it leads the game to match 5, which was the losers finals, and that was Impact versus Stats. That was a ZVP. So I had a game 1 traditional start from both. Stat starts, adapt harass, and was able to bypass Queen Impact defense. GG. I think that was a short match. I think this whole thing was actually really short. And that was the thing. This was a 6-minute game.
Yeah.
And I think what ended up happening here was, I believe Impact had a really good setup for defense. He just messed up.
Yeah.
He either misclicked somewhere or something happened, and it was just too much damage, and he couldn't recover from that. That was GG.
Because the thing is, Zerg has a lot of units, but when you're on a lot of bases against 20 adepts, Zerg, was it Impact?
Yes, yeah. Zerg was Impact, yeah.
Impact just spread himself too thin, because Stats was harassing on all of his bases, and he mainly focused on the main base, but so did Impact. So at this point, he had nothing defending his natural, and 2 roaches at his third, against 4 adepts in each. And with glaives and extra biological damage, that is... Because with glaives and the extra damage, adepts are really good against roaches. So, 4 adepts and no transfuses, just 3 attacks for a roach. And then, once the roaches are done, you just go into the drones.
Yeah, but that unit as a whole, I hate it. Just looking at it, I'm pretty sure I get pissed off.
The adept?
Yes. I don't understand, though. As a Zerg player, I don't understand why there was no spine crawlers, to be honest. I understand, the whole thing behind it where, it takes a drone to make a spine crawler. But if you have one spine, which is 3 drones at each of the location, or just 2 if we're gonna go like early game. If you have 2 spines, that already adds damage to the adepts that are gonna be at your mineral line.
Yeah.
And that extra damage, because I mean, if we look at the games, you always have the queens that attack the adepts, and usually the adepts escape with what, maybe like 20 HP. The ones that get damaged 20 or 50 HP.
Yeah, something like that.
You put a spine crawler there. That's maybe you kill 1 adept, 2 adepts, but that's better than getting no kills. And then, like, in my opinion, I'm sacrificing 2 drones for extra DPS as opposed to letting this dude kill 4 drones. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if the drone is a spine and is damaged, that's still doing something as opposed to just dying.
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm not a pro player, but this is something that's been bugging me forever as a Zerg player and as a Zerg bystander. You have spines, and people refuse to build spines. Reaper Harass was strong for a long time because nobody has spines. Banshee, not Banshee, the little flame cars, that Hellions, that was really strong during Wings of Liberty. For the longest time, that was like one of the strongest things you can do until Zerg started building spines. Why? Because they do pretty good damage
and have ridiculous range.
Lately, yeah, it's like it's pretty gross, like how it actually looks at max damage. It's just, as a Zerg player, amateur, professional, if you feel like you're getting cheesed by the same thing over and over again, which if you're going up against Protoss, it's mainly going to be adepts. If you go up against Terran, it's mainly going to be Reapers early on. Build some damn spines.
And if you're Protoss, go cannons.
Build a cannon. What does it really cost? It costs minerals. Build a cannon. Build 1 cannon. Build something.
Yeah, advantage. It actually costs less minerals than Zerg and Terran, since cannons can attack ground and air units.
There you go. Exactly.
And they detect, so that clears all your bases. That gets rid of Banshee. That gets rid of Mutalisk in a sense. That gets rid of Reaper. That gets rid of Hellion. That gets rid of Adept. That gets rid of Oracle in a sense. It's the jack of all trades in terms of base defense.
My only push against that, and the reason why I think you don't see it as much unless somebody scouts early, like Banshee, or early, something that needs to be detected and defended against.
Yeah.
It's because you also need to build a pylon.
Yes. So that's an extra 100 minerals.
So that's the one. That's like I think to me that's like the key difference there, is that going into the tech is relatively cheap for Protoss, and even the unit itself is relatively cheap. But the thing is, then you need to add a pylon somewhere to power this up in your defense. So yeah, it does detect, it does do damage against both, but you need that extra pylon, and I think that's the reason why they don't do it. But again, if you feel like there's gonna be some cheese or something, just build one. You're gonna invest 200 for a defense. And you can, honestly, I think at the end of the game, especially if you're able to fend off some of the harassment, you wind up saving more in the long run instead of losing 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 workers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and if you're Zerg, there's no excuse to why you shouldn't be building spines and spores. They built on creep. Zerg's main purpose is to spread creep.
It's a little bit different for Zergs, though. I mean, I kind of get that too, but it's a little bit different for Zerg just because it cost
a drone.
Well, no, not the actual, but the energy that it takes to spread creep. Like you need the queens, and like if you're like, yes, and that's the reason why you see like a lot of queens early on, just because then you can get the infusions, transfusions, and the creep spread early on. And that's why you see a lot of queens now, just because they are the kind of like the jack of all trades. They're kind of like the cannons, of
mobile cannons.
They don't
Zerg.
really do the DPS all that great, but I mean they just have great utility. They just don't move that fast off of creep, but early on, I think that's why you see it. But I think it's a little bit harder to kind of spread creep because you're gonna need the transfusions and stuff like that. But at least build a spine, because I mean honestly, spores work for Banshee harass, and what's the little door? Is it the Oracle? The one that has a green.
The green Oracle.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can scout that, then yeah, don't even try to defend it with queens. Just build the damn spore crawler. Just build a spore crawler because they do so much damage. Like even if it kills something, but if you can kill it back, it's better than losing those characters for nothing. Like losing your workers for nothing is kind of ridiculous. But anyways, that was a short match. I think it lasted like 13 minutes, which we were kind of happy about.
Yeah.
That last match because it was already like 6 in the
6
morning. We're like, damn, like another one, like another half hour. Well, I ended up being over in 13, and we're like, yes.
We can sleep now.
Yeah, it sucks that Zerg had to lose, but
There is one Zerg in the
yeah, there's one Zerg, and it's probably the best Zerg of the group from what I've heard.
Dark.
Isn't he a former champion?
I think so.
I think he's a former champion.
2019
probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he has won in 2019. He has that win, and I think he's really solid.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see how that goes for him.
Like for the past couple years, it's been Zergs that are dominating. Dark, Serral.
Zergs dominate, but they never win anything.
Serral was champion.
Yeah, but I mean, you see them win like one season. It's never like year-long domination. It's like they'll dominate a tournament, and then it's like that's it.
That's it. Cause patches keep coming. And yeah.
But I mean, it's always been a thing because like if we go back and we'll talk about some of the players like MVP, Protoss, SOS, Protoss, MMA, even Innovation for a bit. Like these dudes had reigns. Like these dudes were like the best players for like that year that they were like dominated. They dominated for that year. And it's very rare for a Zerg to do that. Like a Zerg will have a strong tournament or a strong like session, and then that's kind of like where it ends.
I think in 2014 it happened where a Zerg was dominating all year. Jaedong.
He has been around for a while. I think the last one outside of Jaedong, but I think Jaedong had a good second half. I think the last player that I saw that was like extremely, extremely dominant as a Zerg player was Life.
Life, really?
Life was good, and he was only like 17, and he got caught up in that whole scheme of the betting that they had. So he's probably in jail, which sucks because he was super, super young.
But now we have a Rainer, and he's really good, especially for a foreigner.
I never seen him play.
He started at he was 14 when he started playing.
That's usually when people start.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Because that way you can get maximum time out of it.
Well, the thing is, when you're young, you pick up things faster.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've been playing instruments and stuff like that since you were like 10. But if I try to pick up a trombone, like it's going to take me a lot longer than it takes you. You know what I mean? It's just biological.
Yeah.
You know, your mind works different. Yeah. So that one was over really quick. So we have Dark Zerg qualifying for best of 16 or round of 16. Winner side stats coming from the losers, and then today at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is the 26th. There's Group C. Teja's in this group. I'm not sure who else. Teja goes back.
He goes.
Does he still play Terran?
I think so. Yeah, Teja's been Terran since Wings of Liberty came out.
I'm kind of excited to see him play and go from there. And we'll see what happens with that. But anyways, we talked like StarCraft for like 50 minutes. Whatever. But yeah, that was a recap. I actually liked watching that. It was pretty sweet. Like I forgot how good it is to kind of watch StarCraft and kind of see and kind of know what's going on. I'm kind of excited for Group C today as well, just to kind of see how Teja's still kind of playing, because that dude's been around forever. Yeah, so that was all the StarCraft stuff. And then lately you've been getting into Heroes of the Storm.
Yes.
What made you get into Heroes of the Storm? Because I haven't played that game in a long time, and when I was playing it actively, you didn't seem to have really any interest in playing it.
Yeah, and then when they put the big patch, they made Tassadar more of a frontline attacker instead of just a support. You got back into it, remember?
I wanted to try him out, but the thing is, I was still playing the game. Like once quarantine started, I started playing the game a little bit more.
That's what made me go in, because Tassadar, but then I went back, and then I went back to try out Tassadar, and then now looking back, he doesn't work.
He's a glass cannon.
Yeah.
He's good if you have a team that can help, and like usually it's like 2 tanks and a really like good support for him, which will probably be like Mouth, because Mouth also has a trait which grants mana, which keeps him out there longer.
Yeah.
So his heals are not that great, but just being able to have that extra mana to just throw out his damage is kind of crazy. But he's very, very specific. Like, he doesn't work in every comp. He's not super broken. He's not like a Rainer or Li Ming, or just somebody who you can depend on to get kind of consistent damage if a player is good enough. Vala's hit or miss just because she's very, very fragile.
She has less health than Tassadar.
Yeah, she's very, very fragile. Like, she does a lot of damage, but she's very fragile. But somebody like Rainer, who does like... Rainer is good because he has consistent DPS. He has his self-heal.
Yeah.
And then he has the Q build, which pushes back. So he has a way to disengage. He has a way to survive. If he gets hit by like a stun or something, there's a small chance that he could survive. If Vala gets stunned at the wrong place, there's no chance she's surviving. She's dying.
She's dying.
But like, yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, what kind of you just said I'm gonna try it out, and
Yeah.
okay, I'm not mad or anything. I'm just, it was just kind of random to me for you to have that, and then you started getting into the Ninjala.
Yes.
That just kind of released, which is a free to play game for the Nintendo Switch. There are story packs that you can buy separately, but the game itself is are there different modes? Because I noticed that you've been playing the 8-player free-for-all like battle royale mode. Is that the only one that's there?
No, there's also a 4-on-4 battle mode.
4-on-4 battle mode. Also, there's teams, and then
Yeah.
I hate every one of those options. So
What do you mean every one of that? There's 2.
Yeah, well, I hate both. I hate every one of those options.
Okay, all
Doesn't
right.
matter if it's the first one or the second one. I hate every one of those options. So what's your overall early on impressions of Ninjala?
It's good. Like, the mechanics are really good, and like the weapon, it's kind of like Splatoon, where you're given your weapon, your abilities, your ult, and then some side abilities. But there are a couple of like major flaws, like the camera. It's ridiculous.
That camera does suck.
Yeah.
That camera's fucking awful.
It's like,
You know what? I'm trying to think here. So the controllers that we have,
yeah.
and even if we have the Joy-Con, is that right stick actually pressable, like an actual button, or is it just for movement?
Both sticks are pressable.
So there's an extra button.
Yes.
Does it have like the auto behind you reset if you click that button?
You know what? I haven't tried it.
You might want to try one of those 2 buttons, because I know in some games, I didn't think about it until just right now. I know in some games, because I know God of War has that. Well, God of War doesn't necessarily have like an auto snap camera, or I think you can lock on, but like if you're in free range mode, and then like you start moving it because you want to see something, but you want to like reset it behind Kratos, you press, I believe it's like R3, and like it'll just snap the camera back to right behind Kratos.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something that's probably in there that we haven't checked. But I don't know, maybe try that and see if that helps you out a little bit, because that was one of the things that I noticed with that game too, just trying to play it, was I hated the camera, just because it's free roaming. You can go up, you can be attacked from the top, you can be attacked from the sides, behind you, and if you're running away, you gotta like also manage the camera. It's like kind of.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the camera, like, what else is your impressions of that game?
Like, yeah, it's good. There's a lot of customization, but there's only 12 weapons, which I think creates just the right amount of a learning curve. Because there's 3 different types of weapons. There's your swords, fast hitting. There's your hammers, which deal a ton of damage. And then there's your yo-yos, which are more like ranged hits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 4 of each with the different abilities and ult. So it takes a while to get like your perfect combination, which I think is really good. Because instead of having like this massive arsenal of weapons, like you're just picking like one thing from each category with the abilities and ult that you like. And speaking of, there's only 2 maps in the game.
Is the game full release or is this early access?
I don't know. There's no tag that says early access.
Doesn't say beta.
No.
In the beginning, when it gives you like the information at the bottom, does it have like a version on it?
I think it says version 1.02.
Oh, it's released. It's released.
It's been released.
It's released
with 2 maps.
Yeah, it's released. That kind of sucks.
Yes.
That's kind of lame. Yeah, I didn't like the game.
Yeah, I can tell.
I didn't like it. And the thing is, it's weird because I like I think you're like, and this kind of goes back to the whole thing of like you being able to pick us up because you're younger. Like things that you've been into in gaming wise has been like motion controls, has been things that for me just don't make any sense. Because when I grew up gaming, we had a controller, we had buttons, everything was like there was no invisible movement. There wasn't like, like I'm gonna wave my arm left and this thing's gonna do a thing. Like we had to pay for that experience in like an arcade or something. But like overall, if you were home, you had a controller with a D-pad and buttons, and that's kind of how it worked. And then within that itself, there were certain standards that were set depending on the games that you played. So like a game like Street Fighter, a game like Mortal Kombat, a game like Tekken or whatever, when they got ported over to consoles, they're all face buttons.
Yeah.
Shooters, Halos, Call of Duty, whatever shooters that we can think of, all of the main attack buttons, which is like your aim down sights and just your shooting, was all triggers.
Yeah.
Are there any guns in this game, or is it's all melee based? It's all
melee based.
So when I played it, that was the thing. It's all melee based. I'm thinking of it more of like a combat fighter. So, what is it? X. So what is that on the GameCube? The B button on the Switch. If it's X on PlayStation, is it B on?
Oh, if it's X on PlayStation, yeah, B.
It'd B. So that's the jump button.
Yeah.
So I found myself pressing BX, BX, BX because I wanted X to be like the basic attacks. But that's like a special attack, isn't it? Like that's an ability.
That's the ult, I think.
God, I hate this game. Just talking about this game. But that's the thing. Like I'm looking at this melee based. Like all my main actions, I want on the face. I don't want anything on the top because there's no guns. And to me, like the top has always been like, for anything that's had face button attacks, the top is always ults, special attacks, special abilities, modifiers,
shields,
something that's not really involved with you attacking or defeating your enemy and fighters. That's more common in like Call of Duty, where you see that, like it's the back trigger for aim, right trigger for shooting. I believe that the top ones are for like grenades. I haven't played on console for a while. I started playing on PC on my laptop again. So, but it's just like, and that's the habit. So like if I have a controller in front of me and you give me something that looks somewhat relative, I want it to perform that way. And just trying to trick my mind and my hands to fight against my natural instinct made me hate this game. It looks okay. It reminds me of Splatoon. I just personally didn't like it. I got like 2 in, and just the schematics of the control scheme is, I guess, it's like old man brain. I couldn't do it. I did not like that at all. Like, period. Yeah, I hated it.
I can tell.
I did not like it at all. I did not enjoy my time with Ninjala for the Nintendo Switch at all. But I mean, if you're young or if you're just a little bit older, or if you're younger than I am, if you're in your 20s, you might have a chance of liking this game. Not because it's cutesy or not because of anything else. It's just maybe you haven't developed this whole, like, I mean, what are we talking about? Well, how old is Halo? Like 20 years? I mean, you weren't even born.
Wasn't it a launch title for the original Xbox?
Yeah, I don't even think you were born when Halo came out.
I think it's almost 25 years at this point. 1996.
We can investigate this super easy. Man, I can't believe my guitar string snapped. Stupid. I gotta go buy another one. Halo released November 15, 2001.
Oh.
That's 4 years before you were born. And like that's the one that set the standard of having your attack buttons or your shooting buttons on the shoulders.
Yeah.
So every shooter that I've played and I can remember has had their action buttons on the top. So you're talking about what 20 at this point, almost 20 years of hard coded, like, and I think even GoldenEye had shoulder attack buttons. Now that I think about it, so I think like the R button was like your shoot button in that game. So even that game put it on the shoulders. Like it's just, yeah, I couldn't fight against it, so I didn't like it. So that's all the notes I have for that.
I think you can customize your controls.
I might look into it and see if that's the case, but I don't know. It's just something about the game.
No.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just the controllers itself, but also just the. What was I gonna say? It's kind of like the way that it is. It's. I think there's too much going on. There isn't just like a focus on the fight. You know, you have those little apples, whatever they are, to get energy or extra points or whatever the case may be that you need to focus on. And there's just there isn't like a set pace to play. It just seems like too wild for me to kind of like really enjoy and get into. It just seems like there's too much. It might just be a like a younger generation game. Like it might just be one of those games that needs this much like excitement for people in your age group to get excited about. You know what I mean? Because I mean, back in my days, better graphics excited us. We didn't even, there was a big point in my generation's like video game life cycle where we did not really care about gameplay. It was like, damn, this game looks pretty, I'm gonna play this game even though the game sucked. If you were excited to play it, you liked it.
Yeah.
Because it looked pretty.
I don't know why you're saying back in your day. That's still a thing.
Yeah, but games don't get vastly prettier nowadays as they did. Because I mean, if you look at how like prior to me being born, you had ColecoVision, you had Atari, you had Intellivision, you had whatever else, you know, that started. It was all squares. It was like 3 squares make up a character. And then you went from that to 8-bit Mario, which was full motion. You can actually tell what the characters are supposed to be with the same squared graphics. And it was prettier. I mean, Mario's a great game. Like, don't get me wrong. 8-bit generation, by far, some of the best games I've ever played to this day exist on that generation of consoles. Whether it be Mario, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Master Blaster, Pac-Man, like, not old Pac-Man, but like the newer arcade version Pac-Man, like games like that were, you know, like were pretty. And then we had the arcade, and the reason why we went to the arcade and spent, you know, millions of dollars in quarters in arcades was because like those games were prettier than the ones we could play at home. Just the processing power was just different.
Yep.
So like, you know, when we were playing Mario at home, we were playing like King of Fighters and
Street Fighter.
What I think Street Fighter was a little bit later, but even like the original Street Fighter, even though it played like trash, it looked way better than what we could achieve at home. So yeah, we played Street Fighter. It played garbage like, but it was pretty, and that was the thing that we went to, and you don't see that now. Like we're looking at all the stuff from like PlayStation 5 and Xbox. What the hell is it now? Xbox One X, Xbox X, X Top, X Prototype.
I don't know. I think it's
whatever.
Xbox One X.
Whatever the new ones are, they look nicer. But it's not that much more nice. And then the thing is, again, back in my day, when we had graphical upgrades going from Nintendo to Super Nintendo, or going from Genesis or whatever, even going from like Genesis to like Saturn or whatever the case may be, most of us play with like an RF controller or like component cables because it's all, you know, like one resolution. It was pretty much a prettier picture with the same resolution for, so we're talking about like late 70s into late 90s, early 2000s,
something.
that we had like the same set, you know, like 480i resolution.
Yeah.
So you were able to achieve prettier looking games on the same resolution, where now if you want the latest and greatest, not only do you have to buy the console, you have to buy something that can display that. Because if we go ahead and plug in a PS5 into this monitor,
It's gonna crash.
The max, no, I mean the max we can do is 1080.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna get all the, oh my god, this looks great. Like we just got a new TV and it's 4K. Like, yeah, now we can connect the PS5 to that and we can see some of what's being promised to us and check it out and be like, oh, this is 4K, this is amazing. But you need that equipment. It's like the cost to actually get that is so much more. And that wasn't a thing back then. Now it is. And that's what we don't get excited about. Like, yeah, you can go, oh, it looks nice, it looks cool. Yeah, it looks nice when it's being presented to us, but do I really want to spend? I mean, we just spent, some nice change on a 4K TV. I mean, it's not the most expensive one. It's actually one of the cheaper ones, but it's still like nice cash. But we needed that to even get done. And like, I can see it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it looks nice because like you see our Disney Plus watch list is like Cars and Coco and Up. Oh my God, Up on 4K, like off of Disney Plus. Like we seen that movie on the old TV, and when we first saw it, like, oh, this look, yeah, we're like, this looks kind of nice. But man, seeing that even streaming, like I can't even imagine what that looks like straight out on a 4K Blu-ray with like everything going off at max, and I don't depend on this streaming for me. I was like, wow. But I needed that extra money just to get that extra like wow factor from a movie, because it wasn't looking like that on 1080. But now we need that for everything. That's kind of like the thing that kind of sucks about this.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, I guess that's all the video game talk that we have for the time being. Anything you want to bring up in terms of video games or anything else?
No.
All right, cool.
Yeah, my mind's drawing a blank right now.
All right, cool. So I guess with everything, I guess we can go like one of my. It's not necessarily a plan, but just doing this because I mean we got nothing to do. It's Friday. Yeah. You ain't got no job and you ain't got shit to do. Maybe this is something we can kind of keep going. And doing this like once a week or whatever and see like what the GSL, like a lot of our updates are going to be Starcraft. You know what I'm saying? This is a father-son thing for right now. Yes. And a lot of the thing right now is going to be Starcraft because we're watching together. And if you're interested in Starcraft, cool. If not, well, go listen to another podcast. I do not care. And if you want to send your complaints, please send your complaints and email us at mobanterpodcast@gmail.com. That's moebanterpodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah. And I guess when quarantine started, we talked about this really, really early in the show, and we just didn't really talk about it. We just, with everything going on and everything happening, we haven't been to the golf course because, I mean, we would be your ride. And sometimes me and you would go out and play. As a 14 when this started, and now you celebrate a birthday and quarantine. What's been the toughest part for you? Like, just dealing with all this?
Just everything. Just staying in the house. Like, okay. When I'm in school, when nothing of this is happening, I'm all over the place. I'm at school, to golf, to sometimes back at school for, like, band. Or sometimes I stay at school for choir. And then I don't get home until, like, 8 or 9 o'clock. And when this quarantine started, I'm like, yes, break. A weekend, I was already missing just the hecticness. Because when you're in a house, you get, like, eventually you run out of things to do, and you're like, ooh.
So I have this question.
Yeah?
Because it bugs me. I won't be honest with you, kind of. But how do you run out of stuff to do? Your house is like fucking Toys R Us.
I don't mean, like, run out of stuff to do. But, like, you start to miss, like, the crazy schedule. Like,
I get that. I
didn't mean like run out of things to do, but it's
just like, it's just the numbness of being stuck in one place and not being able to go from place to place. I understand that. No, believe me, because I mean I've been out of work for a while, and even during this, and me trying to find work, people are not. Even if I got a job, like I would still be home technically because a lot of places are remote, and it's like, well, okay, cool, I got a job, but no, I'm still at home. I'm not, I don't get like that ooh, I get to see the sun today type of thing. And I don't go out every day just to try to keep my rates and hopefully of trying to catch this and spreading it to you or your mom, low.
Yeah.
So now that we're 4 months in, like what like mentally, how are you doing with it? Like, how are you dealing with that on a day by day basis? Because sometimes that can even be hard for me. You know, like it's stressful at times. So how do you deal with that as a 15-year-old?
I honestly just keep it in the back of my mind and then just go on with my day. But the whole day, I'm like, because again, every day was a new adventure when I was in school. Like, even in the summer, crazy summer, but it was fun. Like, every day was something new. Good, bad, anything. Under quarantine, it's you wake up, you do things, you eat, do things, eat, do
Now you have a podcast to do.
Yeah,
maybe
that's a new thing. So, but yeah,
Right.
yeah. This is it's kind of.
Okay.
I can't find a word for it. It's just. But I'm not gonna force myself to go outside just to feel that feeling again because I don't want to die.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if this gets any listens from people outside of our circle, and again, I guess we can get this time big shout outs to the fam. We miss you guys. We love you. Just know that, you know, we want to kick it with you guys. We want to go and have carne asada and see the family. But again, it is that serious. You don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what is said in the media, regardless of what is said out there, oh, if you catch it, you'll be fine. You're young. You're like, my kid's got asthma. You got respiratory issues. You've been hospitalized twice before Corona with stuff that people can catch all the time. Pneumonia being the biggest one.
Yes. Jim Henson died from pneumonia. I was lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you were both times you were in the
Both
hospital
times.
for a week. I think
Yes.
the first time you were there for like 4 or 5 days, and then
I forgot what that was for.
you were really young. It was I remember approximately the week you were in there for because you spent Grandpa's birthday that year in the hospital. September. He's September 24th. I think you were in there 2 days before, and we thought, okay, we'll have you back for Grandpa's birthday. But no, you didn't come back until that weekend because I think Grandpa's birthday was like Thursday or Friday. You didn't come back until that weekend. And you were there for 4 or 5 days. And I remember I wasn't that freaked out. The second time when you were in there for 7 days straight, because you were in there from...
It was 7 days?
You were there you were there right after Christmas Day because we took you to the ER Christmas Day because you were sick. And you didn't get out until January 2nd or January...
Oh, wow. Really?
I remember
I
went to
4
John's
days.
Incredible by myself, remember?
I thought it was in there like the 27th.
No. You were there the 25th to the 26th because we took you to the ER. It might have been the 27th.
Yeah,
it might have been 26th going into the 27th.
Yeah.
But because we took you to the ER the 25th, you weren't getting better or at all the 26th. We might have taken you to the hospital and then they admitted you that day. And then I think they transferred you to Fountain Valley on the 27th.
Yeah.
And then you didn't get out until like the 2nd or 3rd because I went and but I went to go use those John's Incredibles thing by myself.
Yeah.
Eating by myself like a lonely little dude.
There's literally, in one of the because John's has 5 eating sections, and in one of them, there's literally just a table with one seat tucked into the wall. I think that's where you sat.
Yeah, cabin fever.
Just,
I was in the small little eating by myself,
Just
getting looked at. One is the loneliest number. But yeah, so I mean, we miss you, fam. We miss you, and we want to be out there. But again, you know what I'm saying? We're not trying to die. I'm not trying to get sick and get everybody sick. What the hell were we talking about before all this? Oh, quarantine stuff.
yes.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't want to die. I mean, what do you... Once everything is done, once, you know, I don't know when this is going to happen because now it's... Oh, God. People are so stupid.
You could,
yeah, I could.
I mean,
people will listen. I've already cursed.
yeah.
I want to keep my cursing to a limited. There's other words that we can use. I will curse eventually, but
yeah.
I just
seriously.
rather not. When I can prevent it, I can prevent it. But yeah, people are stupid.
Yeah. All these people protesting over a piece of cloth over their nose and mouth.
And then secondly, if you think that's fascism and tyranny because we're asking you please wear a mask because we don't want to get sick and possibly die, honestly, if you think, I will say this in front of my son to... All right, cool, got stitch that back up. Something happened, and I don't know how much of it was missed. So, yeah, people are dumb. If you think wearing the face mask is fascism and tyranny, I don't know what your life is. I honestly, I'm not gonna say I envy your life, but if you think wearing a piece of cloth over your face to prevent people from getting sick is some sort of anti-constitutional, tyrannical
BS.
enforcement from our government, then you must have a pretty nice life. If you think that is really the extreme of what this government can possibly do. But anyways, once this is over, like, if we have a vaccine, we have something. What is the first thing that you would like to do? Like,
I don't want to go to Six Flags.
yeah, okay. Well, what is the thing that's not going to cost me $200 to do?
Okay, I probably want to go golf. Definitely go golf. In Northern California.
Again, something that's not going to cost me $200 to do. Because we need gas and then we need to set up a tea time. I don't know how much golf costs up there.
All right.
I can spend $70 here.
All right. All right. Okay. Third time. Probably.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just.
You want something
You're
less
going
pricey.
like, oh, I want to do this, but I want to do it here.
A little less pricey.
I want to go eat. Let's go to Hawaii. Like.
Okay. Probably go to our little place in Escondido.
That'd be kind of sweet. Okay. Me? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm a homebody. Like, to be honest, like, the biggest part of being stressed under this is just not being able to really work. But, like, dude, I can play video games all day. I honestly could. I can play video games all day. Yeah, so that's the quarantine talk.
Yeah.
Let's cover your face. We miss it. We miss everybody. Hate it. But in general, how are you dealing with all of it? Like, how 4 months into this, where do you gauge your battery? Because I know it can never be 100% full.
No.
Because like when we're busy and you get to actually sleep, like, for 8 hours. I know back then, you were working and you were probably sleeping like 6 hours, if even that, because you had homework and you had to wake up early.
At the absolute worst, I slept for 3 hours before school day.
And then we would get a day where we can sleep like 8 or 10 hours.
Yeah.
And like your battery's refreshed to like 95.
Yeah.
Maybe 90. But for not having that way to kind of drain the battery and you always being full, it seems like it's kind of like that thing where you overcharge a battery. Like, I'm going to charge it for 3 days and you end up like shorting it out. Where do you gauge your battery like level being
Like
full at?
Like, what's my battery level?
Yeah.
Like in a percentage?
Like, even when you sleep, like, what is it like where you're at? Like, how do you wake up feeling? Because, like, honestly, like, with everything going on, I feel like my max is like maybe like 80-85%.
Yeah, that's about where I feel too.
Because I don't feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, like, it gets redundant. It gets kind of boring. It gets like, damn, I'm still home and I slept 12 hours. I'm like,
yes.
I'm like at 85.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have power to get through my day, but
yeah.
I can't really spend it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we go through the day of watching movies and cooking and playing games and stuff, and we've used 20%. We go back to sleep, and it's
overcharge.
Like, well, I'm back to 80, back to 85. Yeah. Do you miss school?
Yes. I miss
A
everything.
15-year-old kid that misses school. I never miss school. I don't miss school now. I didn't miss school back then. I'd be in heaven right now and be like, what? I'm staying home playing video games? And
that's how I felt, like, the first couple of weeks in. Like just thinking, okay, it's first week and then spring break and then back to school, so it's extra week. And then it got longer. And then eventually it got here. 4 whole months. Three? June. 3 months of just staying in, same routine every day.
It's almost 4, bro.
Really?
We're about to go to July.
Like 3.5.
It's 3. It's something like 3.
Yeah,
well,
'cause it was mid-March.
It was mid-March when everything
all
kind of
started.
officially, and then it's the end, almost the end of June,
Almost the
or
end of
quite
June.
the end of June,
Yeah,
and
so
so it's been 3.5 months.
Yeah, same routine every day. Like wake up, do things, eat.
So
sleep.
has your, because you did the whole like schooling at home thing.
Yes.
So like even everything shut down. It took, I think you got like 2 weeks where you didn't do anything because it was spring break. And then when school came back, you had to do the virtual classes, go on Zoom, and do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That stopped what, like about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, right? Beginning of June, end of March. It's been about a
It
month.
was like a month ago.
Okay.
End of May.
So has your kind of like, I guess like your battery level, because you know, like right now it's summertime, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't really feel like much because again, like your routine, it's not a traditional summer routine that we've had for like the last like 2 or 3 years. We're just being driven around from golf course to golf course and class to class and place
Yeah.
to place. Do you feel like more since the virtual classes have been done?
Yes.
Or do you kind of feel like the same?
I feel more
So
'Cause
like the virtual classes was kind of like the thing, at least you had something that
Yeah.
was a little bit different.
it was one constant in this whole thing. Like virtual
where you felt
class.
productive.
Yes. And then now that it's all over, I'm like, ugh. Like my battery has really gone down.
I can see that. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know. I haven't worked since January, so I wish I could work, but that sucks. All right, cool. Do you have any questions you may want to ask me? Something that's been nagging in the back of your mind?
No, I've got nothing.
All right, cool. What's your overall general opinion of? Well, I guess let me ask you this, because there's been a lot of crazy stuff that's happened, and a lot. We had, the riots due to the murder of
Yes.
George Floyd by 4 cops in Minneapolis. And again, if somebody happens to hear this and goes, "Why are you using those words?" If you watch the
It's the
fucking tape,
truth.
it's fucking murder that happened. So you saw the riots. We were in the OC, so I'm not sure where else in the United States this actually happened. But then we had the Karen and Kyle protest to open Applebee's and barbershops.
Ugh.
Because we need to go to restaurants and get our haircuts apparently.
Yeah. Okay. Quick thing. I bet 80% of those people probably in normal life haven't been like, or never wanted to go to a barbershop or Applebee's, and probably never have gone to an Applebee's. But now that we're in quarantine, like, oh, you have a chance to not do this thing you haven't done. Yeah, let's protest so we could go do it.
I mean, I use Applebee's specifically because that's kind of like where they have the dollar drinks. But I mean, it's just opening restaurants and getting, like, the main thing that was everywhere is like, I want to get my nails and I want to get my hair done. So with everything going on, and you as a 15-year-old, because again, when I was 15, what did we have? I'm trying to think. I was a freshman in high school. I don't
When
think
you
there
were
was
15,
much.
it was
So my but the two biggest things that I remember in my life happening
Yeah.
were early 90s, because we were still living in Hollywood, so I was like maybe 8 or 9 when this happened. Was first we saw Ronnie Keane get beat, and I know you don't know who Ronnie Keane is,
Yeah. No.
but I guess for comparison reasons, as far as like a nationwide or even just things that caused riots and protests in the streets, Ronnie Keane was like LA versions of like the George Floyd incident, but without the murder. It was literally 4 cops beating the bejesus out of Ronnie Keane. I think he was driving drunk at the time, but they just beat this dude's ass. And the only reason why this was investigated was because somehow, some way, somebody with a camcorder happened to be at the right place at the right time and actually recorded this. Because unlike today, not everybody had a phone, not everybody had a way to kind of put stuff out there, or like we relied on the actual media to get our news, and they relied on people like us with camcorders or just people who happened to be at the right place, right time with the proper equipment to get some of these scoops that nobody was around to see, you know. So that was my biggest thing. That was my riot. Was the L.A. riots after the Ronnie Keene beatdown, and they found those cops innocent. I don't know if they found them innocent, but they exonerated them of all charges. So they didn't do any time. We had riots, and I was 8 or 9. When I was 18, no, my senior year. I believe it was my senior year, 2001. No, 2000. 2000. I believe at that point, or I want to actually get this straight because it might have been the following year. We had 9/11.
That was 2001.
It was 2001, right?
Yeah. That was... Oh, duh. That would have been your first year of college, I think.
College. It was September 11, 2001.
Yeah.
So I was class of 2001. So I think I was just out of school for that. But that was like our thing, like, oh damn, like, you know, like that was our biggest things. And my impression of both are different depending on the reaction of the people who are around. Like, to me, 9/11 was one of those things you saw on TV, like, damn, like, what happened? This is fake. Same thing, like watching Ronnie Keene get beat when I was 8 years, like, I didn't understand the inequality. I didn't understand why exactly it was a big deal until I got older and kind of understood. And then having my own run-ins with cops randomly for the dumbest thing, just because I was walking down the damn street and I was a brown kid. That made me understand that situation a little bit more than, like I said, 9/11. I don't have, well, of course, there's no way to be positive about it, but I don't really have no negative long-term effects from those two incidents. For me personally, you know, I didn't know anybody who died in 9/11. I didn't know Ronnie Keene. So I don't really have any like long-term effects where I go, oh my God, that affected my life in such this way. But I feel like this is a little bit different. At 15, you know, you've had to deal with, again, school closing. You missed out on certain events in your life. Yeah. You see your, you know, classmates and other people that you knew who missed out on certain events in their life because of all this, you know, graduations being one, trips that were lost, events that were lost, whatever the case may be. And now you're kind of seeing, you know, like all the protests going on, and it's all in the short term. And in this point, like, how does that affect you? Like, how are you feeling about all this stuff? At 15, like, how do you view the world? Like what is your impressions of everything that's been going on? Not necessarily the us being stuck at home, but just the events that you see unfolding, or the events that you hear about. Like, what are your first reactions? What are your thoughts? Like, how do you intake this as a 15-year-old? Like, how does this feel?
Honestly, everything, like, aside from like the protests, but just the cops using excessive force on the protests, Black or African Americans still getting killed by cops, and the utter stupidity that is the George Floyd challenge. That is just...
What is the George Floyd challenge? Because I'm not really into like the social aspect of it. So what exactly does the George Floyd challenge entail?
It's taking a picture of one person kneeling on another person's neck. Is essentially what it is.
Okay.
Someone started...
Hashtag George Floyd challenge.
Yes.
Okay.
Someone started to disprove that George Floyd actually died from someone kneeling on his neck. It wasn't even legitimate. He was kneeling like on his lower back right here. You could see, like, it was sucked in. And he was a gym coach. So he immediately got fired.
And rightfully so.
Yes.
So I guess at 15, how does that shape the opinion of I guess the world that you live in? How do you view the world at 15?
Yeah, at this point, it's just a mess. Like, everything is going down. Like, we got the protests here. From what I've heard, Yemen is apparently on the brink of annihilation, and amongst other things. So at this point, the world is just going down, and I honestly am really ashamed.
Why are you ashamed?
Because it's honestly like Yemen going down, yes.
I
And
mean,
all these
but
other,
I mean,
like,
listen, like, I get I did ask you about the world,
Yeah.
and I guess that was my mistake. You hear things about Yemen, we hear, we know things about, I guess, Russia and other countries, but we don't live in those areas, which is one of those things that, like I told you before, like it's cool to have an opinion if you want to decide and see how the world works, or you have an opinion about the world. Hey, man, you're free to have that at any given time. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, but those don't directly affect your life. In any way, shape, or form. So I guess for me to kind of refine the question I would have asked you, the world that you live in is a little bit more localized, more United States. Because I mean, luckily we can kind of speak this way because we drove across the country. We went through 13 states,
something like that.
and we actually got to see a large part of this country. So I guess for that, that's where I kind of want your world to focus. Is how do you see your life? How do you gauge your life in terms of a 15-year-old child living in the OC in California, but also being a part of the United States of America?
Honestly, it's hard to describe. Because, yes, I do live in the OC, so everything, I haven't really seen any of these things. I haven't seen the protests. I haven't seen any rioters. But just hearing about the news just makes me feel sad that, like, in these times, in, like, one thing. Okay, so we're having the Black Lives Matter protests. And then for other people to stoop as low as literally looting. Just, these aren't even protesters. They're just other people. And it just makes me sad that we would stoop that low. And the same thing with the media. They were covering these protests they were covering the riots when the protests were going on. And then once riots stopped, and then the media just shut all of it down. But protests are still going on, and no one is being made aware at this point. Like the news, from what I've heard, aren't covering any of this.
So how are you being aware that the protests are still going on, even though the riots have stopped and the mainstream media has stopped covering this? Like how do you stay engaged with this?
I just checked the Instagram because one of my friends from school actually keeps like posting things about like the Black Lives Matter, Pride Month, and everything else that's going on in the world on her Instagram story. It's not her words, it's reposts from like Twitter that she puts on her story on Instagram. So that's how I'm keeping up to date, and it all just makes me really sad.
So, and again, I want to commend you for kind of keeping up to date with what goes on in the world. You're not turning a blind eye to it, because I mean, like outside of this, me and you really haven't spoken, and part of the reason why we haven't really spoken about it is just I like to talk to you when it comes to like real life things and how things are affecting you and everything else. But at the end of the day, I as a father have to prep you for life without me.
Yeah.
I have to allow you certain freedoms in the way you ingest information, the way you dissect information, the way you absorb information, the way you let this information kind of develop your ideals in your life. Because I mean, Grandpa, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa, try to raise me a certain way, try to tell me certain things. But when I was at your age, I had my own ways of thinking. I had my own ideals. It didn't matter what anybody told me. I had a way that I thought I was right. I wanted to live. I wanted to develop myself and my thoughts, and that's kind of how it went. And I want to offer you the same opportunity. But at the same time, hearing about this, how do you? So you say you're hearing it from a friend.
Yeah.
And this person is posting on the stories and they're retweeting from Twitter.
Yeah.
When you get this information, what do you do with it?
I'm not active in these stories because I honestly don't want to get involved in these things. I don't want to get swept up in these things. So honestly, I keep it in my mind, and it's like, why are people doing this? Like, why? How could anyone stoop this low in a time like this? But I don't comment. I don't like repost. Like when the day came around that everyone was posting black squares on their Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it because honestly, I didn't want, like, I support it. I just don't want to get involved. Cause is that bad?
No, I mean, like I said, it's your reason because I didn't do it. I didn't get involved, and again, it's. I have my own reasons for that. I mean, me and you haven't talked about why we didn't do it or why we haven't done it and anything like that. I don't think it's wrong. And anybody who tells you, "Oh, you're wrong because you're staying silent," or whatever the case may be, I think me and you have talked about some of the things that happen and some of the movements that tend to kind of pick up steam on social media, via hashtags. I have my own opinion on that. You have, whatever, your opinions are on that. You're a little bit more restricted just because of, I mean, we monitor your socials. Well, I mean, as parents, we monitor your socials to
Yes.
make sure that you're not posting incorrect stuff, that you're not doing, like dumb stuff with it, because nowadays stuff like that sticks with you forever and a day. But I guess for everything else, what it comes down to is, so part of the danger for me in this is that you do have access to Instagrams, and I trust you that you're not going to talk to some creepy ass dude that's going to be like, hey, come meet me at the park. But how much investigation after reading these stories or reading these little snippets or seeing this on your Instagram do you actually do before you come to a conclusion of how you think
Like-
this thing is going to shape your life, or how you think? Because like you say, like, like your friend is posting these stories. Do you take do you take her stories at face value and like that's the definitive truth because you trust that your friend is posting accurate stuff? Or do you like look at it and then like Google search it and try to find like the actual like news stories or try to find the actual event or okay, cool. Since we have to stop because we're running into technical difficulties. So I don't know. I mean, I'll ask again. So like once you see these stories posted on your friend's stories for Instagram, like what do you like I said, like what do you do after the fact? Do you take these stories at face value? You take this information at face value and be like, damn, that's wrong or that's right? Or do you make judgment on it, or do you try to investigate and find where this information is coming from, and two, does this event actually exist? What actually happened? What are the stories? Because it's easy for somebody to make a judgment on a headline, on a picture, but if you're missing a lot of the information, your opinion on it is just as flawed as the person sharing the information. So what do you do with this information once you get it? Like, how are you determining like how you actually feel about this?
Like, okay, so when I look at the story, I don't do any other research, but if it's an especially like WTF type of story, then I talk to you and mom about it.
Okay.
Like,
So I guess in those terms, like when you talk to your mother and I, do you get the information that you want out of us, or is it a thing where it's like, do you continue after that, or
like at that point, yes, I get all the information, but there's still this lingering of like, why would anyone do this? Which is honestly a hard question to answer, because there's no way to like read the minds of these people that like do these things. But honestly, like if there's a like, I don't know, like there's no way to
okay?
know.
No, I get you. I mean, and that's one of the things that you have to be quite aware of too, because like when social media kind of became like the thing, we had MySpace and Facebook, and I was on there, and it was like a homie that actually called me out on it, because I remember seeing a post, and it was along the lines of gun control. And it was something that, what was it? I can't remember it specifically, but I remember it being like a gun control specific like meme that was being shared by a person that I trust. To this day, I still talk to him. To this day, like I would still ride with this cat and go work with him and hang out with him and stuff like that. And I shared it, and then some other guy said like, you know what, this doesn't sound right. This sounds completely wrong. And then there was one line in that meme that he was like, you know what, that line itself makes this whole thing incorrect, because like what it's stating in that meme is not correct. So then I went and, like I said, I investigated. I was like, is this cat fucking for reals? So then I went and investigated and determined that he was telling me the truth. And that's the thing that's kind of like the slippery slope, and that's why I kind of ask you, and I want you to be aware of that. Is like, people will react to headlines, people will react to pictures and say, oh, look, this happened. This is what happened here. But it might not be that. So it's just always take all this information with a grain of salt. It doesn't matter how horrendous the action is.
Okay.
But always do the proper investigation to make sure it actually is a horrendous act. And you know, and what I mean by that, and you're going to probably see the dark side of me, is that if I see somebody get punched in the face, right?
Right.
And I look at it for like, oh, damn. But if you tell me that, you know, this guy punched said dude because said dude was talking mess to dude's wife, dude's homie, dude's whatever, and this guy defended, you go, okay, cool. Like, just with that information, you go, guy who got punched deserves to get punched. But say that happens and you realize that other dude's girl, friend, whatever, knows this guy or just doesn't like this guy for whatever reason, blah, 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 starts talking mess to home dude, and then this dude goes and kicks his ass anyways. Dude still got punched in the face, but the story changed. Instant number one, you go, he deserved it. Shouldn't have been messing with people because you don't know who's going to mess with you back. Second is, somebody punched them in the face just because they were talking mess. Same action, but the story behind it is what changes.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I want, you know, I always want to like, I want you to be aware of that, is that you need to find the details. And it's like, and the problem with social nowadays, and the problem with just everything that's put out there, is there's different accounts for the same situation. And sometimes you have to go to other sources that are like, no, this is what happened. This is, you know, and then once there's enough of kind of similar instances or similar scenarios played out or similar tellings of this event, then I would say, okay, cool. That's kind of how you can determine. But even at that point, you have to realize you did not witness these events yourself. You did not experience it. You kind of weren't there. Some of them are explanatory. Some of them don't need any explanation. You know what I'm saying? Like with me, with Ronnie Keene. Apparently, after everything was said and done, he was drunk. He wasn't complying. He wasn't whatever. Honestly, unless he pulled a gun on the cops, or pulled a taser, or pulled a katana sword, or pulled some shit, he did not deserve to get beat that way. He did not deserve to get, you know, his face smashed in and get bones broken over being a drunk driver. First, he shouldn't have been drunk driving. That's first and foremost. Yeah. Him getting pulled over and getting, you know, and getting arrested and getting put to jail. And if he was being belligerent and being, you know, like submitted to be apprehended, that to me is all acceptable. But the moment where you beat this dude's ass, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's the part where you go, I don't care what details come out regarding this. If it's not one of these scenarios where he was being an imminent danger to anybody else in that scenario, there's no justification for this. There's none. You know what I'm saying? But you have to make sure that you get all the information. Because if that guy with the camera is not there, then the cops are probably saying he was drunk, he was resisting us, he was belligerent, he was this. We beat him into submission. That's why he's like that, because he was fighting us. That would be their definition. That would be the story that gets reported. That is what happens. If not for this guy with the camera. Nowadays, everybody has a camera.
Yeah.
It's, you know, like what happened with George Floyd. You could have told me, hey, this cop kneeled on his neck. You know, this, and this happened. Now he's dead. Police brutality. I can look for stories. I can look for everything else. And be like, well, what happened prior to this? Was he fighting? Was he being belligerent? Was this happening? Blah, 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 blah. And again, through text, through social, through whatever other sources, we don't know. But there's video. And again, it's the same thing. This dude is being submitted. He's being kneeled on. He has no chance to reach for a weapon. He has no ability to fight back. Unnecessary. And then the media and everybody else came out. oh, well, he tried to pay his bill with a fake 20. He had priors to I think it was like smoking weed or being in prison for weed. None of what came out, nothing of what came out justified this man being dead.
Yes.
Nothing. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
even, I'm not going to even say that part, but like, nothing that came out justifies this man being dead. Nothing that comes out. Same thing with Eric Gardner, who got choked out in New York. I don't know if you, I think you might have been a little bit too young for that. And before you even got on social, there was another incident in New York where a white cop tried to apprehend a black man. He was a little bit bigger than the cop. He was resisting. There was video of him actually resisting. And then, as they're fighting and everything, the cop puts a chokehold on him. Remains putting the chokehold on, even though they submitted him and they were able to kind of overpower him, kept this chokehold on him. They choked him out to death. I believe at that point also Eric Gardner was asthmatic. He had respiratory problems.
Oh, no.
So that on top of being on the chokehold and the fight and everything else, he ended up dying. Didn't get the medical attention that he needed during the time and everything else, and he ended up dying. Same thing. I looked at it, I was like, this seems irreprehensible. And after they find out, hold on. So like I was saying, it's one of those things like I want to make sure that I get the news before I'm outraged over something.
Okay.
And because with social media, you just don't know nowadays. I've seen my friends share stories with headlines and they react to the headlines. And then I go ahead and read the story and I go, the headline doesn't match. And it's just one of those things as a 15-year-old, you have to be careful. Yeah, I mean, even as a 37-year-old, as a 50-year-old, as a 60-year-old, you have to be careful with the way you ingest news, the way you ingest the information, because information is out there now. Information is more widely available now than it's ever been at any point in history. And to react to everything without getting your research done, like basically don't trust anybody. I mean, like I understand some people might have the best intentions, that they're going to share something to try to push a movement or to bring attention to something that might be going on, injustices in this world. And for all of that, yeah, that, the internet is great to make you aware of things that are happening in places that you're not, because again, like you had mentioned earlier, in Yemen, I'm not sure what's going on in Yemen. I haven't heard anything, but you said, Yemen is going into trouble and stuff like that. And you're going to see that a lot, but you also have to understand is that a lot of research has to be done before you realize this is wrong, this is good, because we just don't know, and that's kind of like the thing. Everybody has a posting about something, like I mentioned my friend who had posted that meme about gun control on Facebook, and I shared it. I got called out, opened up my eyes to that a little bit more, and I was in my late 20s when that happened. More recently, I had another friend, again, love the dude. He's kind of like a geek and everything else. He shared the story relating to how the new Avengers, or I forget what movie it was, but it was basically that Spider-Man would no longer be part of any type of Disney MCU movie because Sony said something. So
that was sound like Endgame.
That was the headline, was that he wouldn't be in there because Sony is messing up the deal, this and that, and it was and his reaction was, oh, F Sony, because Sony is ruining it. Why don't they just give up Spider-Man, this and that? And then I was like, okay, read the story. What ends up happening is there is an existing contract with Marvel regarding the Spider-Man franchise, where they they're the ones that are allowed to make the movies. They're the ones that kind of control the characters, movie persona, and everything else. So anything related to the movie personas, Sony has full licensing over. Usually gets paid pretty handsomely with it, and that was kind of the deal with him being a guest star in Disney. But with Disney owning 99.2% of everything Marvel, there was this whole thing of, well, Disney wanted to restructure that contract, and instead of getting whatever they were getting from Spider-Man and this and that. They wanted a bigger chunk of the pie. So again, in reality, I guess you can say it's Sony's fault, but it's really more of like Disney being like a football player that's holding out. They agreed to a contract. They no longer like the contract, and now they want to restructure the contract.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hold off. I'm not gonna do anything else. So that's kind of why I'm telling you, like, you have to be careful with all that information that comes in, because again, at 15, especially at 15, when this is kind of the way that you and your friends communicate through social, and this is the way you guys interact through social and online, just in general. Just kind of be careful with the information that comes. And, like we've always told you, come talk to me, come talk to your mom. We'll come and talk to you, and we'll try to help you out best. Not make judgment for you, but just kind of give you more information and what you can actually do to kind of, and you've been doing that, what I'm saying? And I thank you for that. But it's just, like, again, when we're not around, or you feel like you don't want to talk to us, or whatever the case may be, just always be aware of that situation. And that's for anybody else. That's for any other 15-year-old, any other 12-year-old, any 13-year-old. Just investigate. Don't just react and be like, oh, this is bad, this is good, this is great, this is awesome, this is stupid, this is whatever, without really doing your investigation, your research. Because if I was duped at 20, there's a bunch of dudes in their 20s, 30s, 40s that got duped by a Nigerian princess who needed help escaping the repressive regime of her country. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, it's because you were really, really young, and it's a scam. Basically, you would get the spam email from a Nigerian princess who needed your banking information, so she could deposit great wealth into your account, so she could share it with you once she got to the States and she was safe. So, a lot of people fall for this stuff right away, and it's like not the best way. And you'll see it. You get spam emails of like, hey, you want to invest in Apple for $15 a share instead of whatever it is now. It's like, there's ways to get money out of people. I mean, you see fake Red Cross emails, you see fake this and fake that, and people just do it for the money. There's always reasons to manipulate what's out there, and you have to be careful, and everybody else too has to be careful with what they ingest and how they ingest it. But yeah, it's like, and going back to what we're talking about all this injustice in the news, it's like there's video out there now. There's video, and there's no way. But if all you saw was a picture, you don't know what part of the picture you're seeing.
Yeah.
But once you see the video, once you get the stories, once you see what happens, I mean, there's no justifying that. So, and just always be cautious of how things happen. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
There's been a lot of information. We've talked about a lot of events about things that happen with cops and things that just happen in this world. And there's always one action or one reaction or one story of this, and that. But then key parts are missing from that story that you have to investigate and figure out, like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And it's not, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying that history is written by the victors. But
No.
Okay, so basically what that means is the history that you are taught, the history that you know, is always written by the people who won the war. So, obviously, let's just, I guess, go all the way back to, like, the Civil War, North versus South, whatever. We have our way of thinking, and most of us are taught this a certain way, that, the North did this, and the North did it to free the slaves, and the North, did that. Apparently, and this is news to me, is that there are books, or there are classes in the South that were Confederate states, where they don't call it the Civil War. They call it the war of aggression from the North, or something along those lines. You know what I mean? And their whole take on it is that the history that you have been told for the last 200 plus years is a lie, because the North won. And we weren't there. I mean, we know what happened. Slavery is no longer a thing. It's been abolished, and stuff of that sort. But even now, it's being disputed. It's being delivered. So again, it's always do your research. At the end of the day, you're going to have to determine your own ideas. You're going to have your own judgment and your own way about it. You could be wrong on a lot. I've been wrong on a lot. There's no problem with being wrong. But at the same time, you also have to make sure that, that you don't get caught up in a war that, one, is not yours to begin with, or secondly, that you get caught up in the wrong side of a war. Just because the information you have is from a trusted source and you believe this person, or you believe this media outlet, you believe this, and they're telling you the truth and everybody else is lying. Always investigate. Even people that you trust sometimes, whatever, CNN, Fox News, if you trust them, whatever the case may be, they'll lie to you too. So it's just, you have to always be wary of that, you know what I mean? And you going into the world of more information being passed your way, where, like whenever you go off to college or whenever you go live off on your own, me and your mom will be there for you. Like, all you gotta do is call us or text us and we can talk to you. But at the same time, most of the life that you live is going to be outside of the house. And it's something that you have to be prepare yourself for, and be able to have a good mind and a good head on your shoulders to kind of think through everything thoroughly before you kind of really dig in deep and say, this is the way that I believe in this, this is what I'm going to fight for, and this is what I'm fighting for. And you got to make sure that you are 100% behind that. It's not because somebody is egging you towards that way. It's because you came to the conclusion this is the side you want to fight for. And that's just something that you have to always be take into account of living in this world, really, because this world is a crazy place. So I mean, we're pretty good.
I think that's it.
I've been playing a lot of NBA 2K. I think I've simmed most of 45 seasons. Or is it? No, I think I'm on like season 51. I think I'm on the 2071 season. Yo, any of you players that are gonna be out there for 2071, you guys are getting paid. I just extended one of my dude's contract. Dude's getting paid $60 million a year. 60 mil, a year. It's nuts. I got this dude on a contract for 5 years, making $333 million. And that was with an extension that cost me almost 70. But anyways, I've been playing a lot of that. But I want to thank you, my boy.
I want to thank you for having me on.
Indulging me. I mean, we'll continue to do this over the summer, just to kind of do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I know this one as a whole was our first shot, and we spent a lot of time, and it's a little bit long, but we talked about some very difficult things to talk about, and at the end of this, just so it's out there and put out there, the disclaimer is, whatever we share here as a whole is an opinion. We're not telling anybody to side with us and to view things that we view. If you have a problem with anything that I said, then that's a problem with something that I said. Me, myself, and I. But myself, on my own, whatever words I use to describe certain actions that we spoke about is me, not my son. If you want to email us to lay that kind of criticism down, you feel free to email us at mobanterpodcast. That's moebanterpodcast@gmail.com, and go ahead and criticize me. But don't go ahead and criticize my kids over what I'm telling him and everything else. I have to get him ready for a world of his situation, of his doing, but he's going to go out there and live it himself. But I have my way. Don't criticize my boy for his opinions. He's 15. If there's something that he said that was wrong in this podcast, it's not because of him. It's because of me. Because either I haven't been open enough with him, or I haven't talked to him, or maybe we haven't talked about it in the detail that we need. But that's another thing. I'm here with my kid. We're here having a father-son experience. We're trying to do this just for fun, for the most part. Just talk about life. Life is difficult. Even at 15, or even somebody who's 37 raising a 15-year-old. It's difficult. It's a difficult situation. It's a difficult time. It's difficult life. You know what I'm saying? But whatever it is that he says or he's doing, most of it has to be influenced by me in some way, shape, or form. I try to not influence him as much because I want him to be his own person. I don't want him to be a mini-me. I want him to be a big him, a big Nathan. I don't want him to be a little Mo. I want him to be a big Nathan. I want him to stand on his own 2 feet. But I'm going to have my opinions. He can call me out and say, hey, I don't believe in the way you believe. And that's fine. There's a bunch of differences between us alone in the way that we believe in our spirituality, the way we believe in our religion, the way we believe in just our day-to-day lives. There's differences between us. I don't make him believe the way that I believe. And if he tells me, hey, I believe this way, then fine, you believe that way. And that's cool with me because we're different people. At the end, as long as he's here, as long as he respects his mother and I, and he respects the family, we straight. He can have his opinion on whatever he needs, whatever he wants. That's cool, because he's Nathan. He's not Little Mo. You know what I'm saying? So if you have any criticism to please criticize me. Any criticize things that you email us or anything that's criticizing him, we're not going to pay attention to you. And to be honest, like, I'll say this in front of my kid, and you guys can, again, criticize me for this, but fuck the haters, fuck the trolls, and fuck everybody else. If you have nothing better in your life to do than to just hate on people, we don't need to fuck with you. We don't need to mess with you. We don't need to even acknowledge your existence. But if you have a difference of opinion, if you say, hey, I don't believe this is right or what you said, and this is why, and you can give us like concrete information, we can discuss this on the podcast. We won't call you out as long as you keep it respectful. We can have this conversation, because this is what this is all about. It's about conversating. At this point, you have a 37-year-old man, you have a 15-year-old kid that you can conversate with, that we can kind of grow together and have these opinions and share these opinions and have questions answered and ask questions and do all this stuff, because this is how the world gets better. This is how the world goes around. This is how we improve ourselves as a people, is through conversation, is through discussions, not through judgment, not through like, yes, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right type of situations. It's all about conversating. There will be some very, 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 very clear black and white stances in this life. Doesn't matter how old you are, where you were raised from. There are very, very, very clear black and white stances that people can take. But for the most part in this world, we live in a gray zone. Things are not clear. Things are not how they seem to be. Or maybe when the end result is very black and white, leading up to that situation is very, very murky and very, very gray, because it's a mixture of actions that lead to one of those results. And it's in that area where we live in. It's in that area where I teach my kid. It's in that area where I talk to my kid. And anything that I gave him that's black and white is because it's my black or white judgment, but that's the way I see it. I tell him how I believe it, how I believe this event, how I believe this thing to actually be from my perspective. But I don't expect him to have that same belief, to have that same perspective, to share the same vision of the world that I do. Because we didn't grow up the same. So all I can do is give him my perspective. If he doesn't want to believe me, if he doesn't want to believe in the way that I do and perceive the things the way that I perceive them, he's his own person and he can do that. Because again, wherever he's drawing his conclusions from, it comes from him and his thoughts and the way that his mind works. The same way that through the years, I've done that for myself. But everything that we discuss is always in the gray, murky area, is always in this gray zone of uncomfortability. Because I have to prepare him to be in the world where there's going to be a lot of gray areas. And not everything is black and white. So again, if you want to email us to discuss anything that has happened, mobanterpodcast, I think I spelled it enough times, at gmail.com. And we can do that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I had fun. This was a little bit better for me because then we can conversate and get some reactions instead of me just kind of screaming at the mic and being like a wannabe John Oliver, and making like these weird ass jokes. But yeah, my boy, like, thank you for this. Thank you for indulging me. We'll do more of this. I had a good time, and now that we have like the setup and everything else kind of going, it's kind of great. We'll do this, and I love you, my boy. I don't think that gets said enough, but I love you. Like I said, even at 15, you are the soul of my life, and everything else, and just even this getting to share like little experiences like this is kind of what makes me happy as a father. And anytime that we get to do something small, whether it's podcast like today or we get to go play golf or whatever the case may be, it's stuff that I love to do. I just love spending time with you and being able to kind of introduce you to new things and everything else. And I had a good time. It's episode 11, but it's episode number 1 of like this joint venture between us, and if something succeeds and something succeeds, and overall I had a good time and everything else. And we'll see you guys next time. And in the meantime, please stay safe. Please respect each other. I understand that we're all different, that we all have different ways of thinking, that we all have this. Again, there are very, very, very clear black and white differences in 5% of what goes on in our life. So we're talking about 10% of this world's life, of everybody's life, is very cut and dry about what is wrong, what is right. 10%. The other 90% is murky, gray, shady water that we had to traverse to get to wherever we want to go. And to just want to be stuck in one place doesn't help anybody. So respect each other, love one another, take care of each other, wear a mask, and hopefully we can get through this soon, and we'll be around for the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to say bye to anybody? You want to shout out to anybody?
No.
All right, Mom, well, give me a hug.
Okay.
All right. Mwah. Love you.
Love you too.
All right, everybody. So with that, this has been Mo Banter Podcast, episode 11, and we'll see you guys next time.
Wait.
What?
You gotta play the song.
I'll put it at the end when I edit because I got to stitch all this stuff together.
Okay.
So yeah, at the very end, you're gonna get no picture, and you know what? Maybe we can just kind of bop to it together as father and son, and that would kind of be how we end the podcast. We should do that. We should just play it at the end of like if we get new stuff, we'll play it at the end and it just be us rocking to it. And if we don't bob our head to it, then we don't have to say that it was whack. But you ain't got a headbanger. I think that's fair judgment. Yeah. Is it a headbanger? Were they banging their heads? Yes. If not, hey, I'll play it, but it wasn't a headbanger. All right, and with that, we'll play us off. Let me start this thing. We'll get this thing a little bit more situated and better as it goes on. But let me see. Is it playing? Why is it not? Oh, because I lowered it. Whoops. There we go.
There it is.
You can hear it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So when the song ends, everybody will be in, but you won't hear us speak anymore. Please enjoy. Again, this is Lost on My Cup by my cousin Howard Odello, aka How.Words. How Words. You can find him on Instagram at How Words. Not sure what else he's at, but you can find this on YouTube, and you can find it on all other major distributions: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music. My cousin, I love you. This is a headbanger. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Yeah, I do it with you. When I lose it, doors pour richer. Yeah, they don't know the situation. Only pages in the bigger picture pours from the picture or pours of the liquor, yeah. Feels like a Salvador and a killer, yeah. It helps shut the doors and it seals them up. Hope for some more when I fill my cup. I hope that my hope finds hope. And my vital signs on idle. Cause if I don't find hope, I know Bible, there's no time. Moment's final. Cause if I don't find hope, that's no side, those feelings I explore. Moving on a slow-mo, happy in a road, or rather be lost with you. Yeah. They try to do it solo, do it the go-go, and do it lost with you. Getting lost in my cup, yeah. Getting lost in my cup. You chasing death instead of commas. What example are we setting for our daughters? Think of the good as with Gianna and Black Mamba at the bottom. Keep your head above the water. I don't wanna do this, but I gotta face the horror of death before the sun. Design a destiny, fuck the pride, I'm a father. It's more than just my problem. Maybe not to blame the way it was brought up. Getting caught up, expectations of my father. Try to mock up the greatness in Nirvana. Instead of shocking and a spinner to control like a shot up helicopter. Hurting but I'm not hurt. Rather have this problem than a doctor. Pushing down the pills, they kill me softly like Lauryn Hill in concert. To this bitch called life isn't worth it, and I don't even want her. Moving on a slow-mo, happy in a road, or rather be lost with you. They try to do it solo, do it the go-go, do it lost with you. Getting lost in my cup.